Marv, and clearly I'm in the car. This is Marv in the car. Real quick, there is this account in the Bible, and this account is of a man who is at this place called Bethesda, the Pool of Bethesda. And this place is like a place where paralytics and people who can't move or who are weak or who are ill and need a healing, and maybe outcasts in society are gathered in this one place, and they are all needing healing. And in that pool there, it was believed that every now and again when the water stirred, it was a spiritual stirring of perhaps some angel or spiritual being stirred the water, making the water ripe for healing, and that the first person who entered into that pool would be healed. And so this is a point where Jesus was coming into his ministry on the front end, and he was doing signs and wonders, and he was healing people. And so he spots this guy. He knows he's there, and he knows the guy's situation. He knows that he's been ill. He's been paralyzed. He's not been able to walk for 38 years. And 38 years being a very significant amount of time, some of us, couldn't fathom dealing with the same thing for 38 years. And some people haven't been alive for 38 years. And back at this time, a lot of people died before their 38th year of life. So here you have a gentleman who's been ill for 38 years, and Jesus encounters him, asks him, do you want to get well? The guy doesn't respond by yes or no, but he rather responds by saying what his predicament is, and that, I can't get to the water in time. Every time I go to get into the water, someone gets there before me. And so here he is. He's in position to be healed, but he does not have the ability to get the healing himself. And so at that point, Jesus tells him, take up your mat and walk. Instantly, he was healed. He walks on, and then later, the second time he encountered Jesus, he said to him, see, you're still healed. Now go and sin no more, that nothing worse might happen to you. Sometimes God is only going to tell us once. Sometimes God will only tell us once, and then from there, he'll show us. I think all of us have pretty much been in a situation, if we've lived life for any portion of time, that we've done something that was damaging to somebody else's life, our life. We've done wrong. We've sinned, basically. And that situation or that action put us in a place where we were in a predicament that we couldn't necessarily get ourselves right out of. It was some sort of process. It was some sort of move we needed of God to get us out of a situation that we put ourselves in. And we may have made a promise to God or ourselves of, hey, if I get out of this, if you take me out of this predicament, God, then I will not do this again. I will not come back here again, which is a largely ineffective thing, because those of us who are followers of Christ, we know that it's futile to give yourself a checklist and think you can follow that checklist for life just because you know the right things to do are on that checklist. It's a spiritual transformation that brings us to a point where we can do what we're supposed to do, right? And what that looks like is getting close to Jesus and learning who he is, because we can't love who we don't know. Learning what his word says, allowing his word, which the Bible tells us is living and active, cutting through to the innermost being of mankind, thereby reading you as you read it, transforming you as you learn biblical facts. You also gain the spiritual wisdom and discernment, and you see a mirror that tells you what you need to change, and thereby your transformation takes place through the word, and not through a checklist, not through, hey, I know I'm wrong, so now I'm going to do right and I'm going to do it by my own might. But you can't do that. You must be born again, as the word says. You must be transformed. You must go through a process by which you are supernaturally transformed daily, gradually, while you walk and get closer to God. So when Jesus encounters the man again, he says, now go and sin no more, that nothing worse will happen to you. And sometimes, like I said, God is going to tell us once, and then from there he's going to show us, because a lot of us already know right from wrong anyway. but we do some things, because we want to, or because that's what we feel the urge to do, or that, whatever the case may be that draws us, we do the wrong things and then we expect nothing to occur. But here it's clearly stated that Jesus told this man, and he kind of insinuates that it was possible that he was in the position he was originally because of his sin, because of what he was doing in his life. There's no telling what it was, but the text insinuates that there is some indication that he could have been in his state of illness or state of infirmity because of his own actions. But I digress. So going back, sometimes God will tell us once, and then he'll leave it up to us to follow those instructions or to take them seriously. Because I really think that's what he wants us to do. He wants us to take it seriously when we learn something about him, or when we go through an experience that we should get better from. And instead of going back to doing the same thing or dedicating ourselves to the same faulty lifestyle, he wants us to take seriously what we have seen occur, and to make a dedication toward journeying on the path of becoming better, instead of doing the same things, dedicating ourselves to the same things we've done that got us in the wrong place. So sometimes God's only going to tell us once. So for whoever might be listening to this, if God has got you out of a bind, or even if you need assistance from God, let's say you're in position and you need a touch from God, you need a miracle, or you need a healing, you need a blessing, you need peace of mind. While you're asking God for that, remember that on the back end of that blessing, if God chooses to, because everything is done in his will, but if he chooses to bless you with that healing, if he chooses to bless you with that peace of mind, whatever you're asking for, take it seriously. Don't just look at it as something like, God, yes, thank you for that. Now I feel better, and now I'm going to go forward and live just how I've been living. I'm not going to spend no time with you. I'm not going to acknowledge you. I'm not going to talk to you past when I'm asking when I need something. Don't go back to that lifestyle, because God he learn from this guy here. And this is in John chapter 5. Read John chapter 5 if you have some time. It's in John chapter 5 where this account takes place. But take seriously your role in your continued healing. As the word said, it says, go forward and sin no more, that nothing worse might happen to you. Listen, sometimes God will tell you once, and then he'll show you after that. A lot of us, we knew on the front end that we shouldn't be living how we were living, but it took something to happen to us for us to really get the picture. So don't be the person who bumps their head so many times that God then has to show you. Take the healing God gives you. Take the wisdom he gives you through your experiences, and dedicate yourself to a life of following him, to learning about him, to taking him seriously. No, you won't be perfect. And when he says sin no more, he's not going to say that, hey, don't ever sin again in your life. But he's saying dedicate yourself to a life of sanctification. By sanctification, I just mean that getting better, growing, walking with God, and allowing yourself to gradually be transformed by his presence and his word. Because if you go straight back to that lifestyle, if you go back to swindling, if you go back to lying, if you go back to fornicating, if you go back to adultery, if you go back to gluttony, if you go back to living a lifestyle that is clearly contrary to what God is calling you to, and you know that even after he's blessed you to get you out of a situation, if you do that, then you're essentially placing yourself in the path of perpetual divine discipline, because the Bible tells us, it says God chastises those whom he loves. It's like he's the perfect parent. Sometimes we as imperfect parents will let you slide a lot of the times, and we won't give you what you need, that discipline that you need, because our heart is so bent toward you, is so soft towards you, that we'll let you off the hook. Even though that discipline would have been something that could have set you on the right path long term, we might forego it because we're imperfect. But God in his perfection will not spare the rod where it is absolutely necessary to get you on track if you truly are a child of him. And so this message is simple, that God is only sometimes going to tell you once. And let's just assume that's where you are now. God is only going to tell you once, and then he's going to show you. And then when he has to show you again, that may put you in a path to be worse off than you were before. And you'll find yourself in a cycle, You'll find yourself in a cyclical lifestyle that places you in a path of perpetual illness or infirmity or hurt or lack of peace or a lack of connection to the people that you should be connected to, or lack of connection to God, lack of fellowship, just placing you in a place where you are now dependent on a healing instead of moving in the healing that you already have been given and getting better from there. And so I hope that's helpful to somebody today. I'm praying that you will be healed from what you need healing from. If you are feeling good and you've received from God what you need, don't forget about God and don't run back to your mess, but move higher. You were healed up, you were mended up to step up. And so I hope that's helpful for you today. But that's all I got right now, y'all. I hope y'all have a blessed week, and I'm gonna holler at y'all on the next one. I'm gone.